Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile. We had hoped to be able to bring you coverage of the Miller Lite 225, but now it and the Dayton Indy Light Series have been postponed. But to get the exact update on what the thinking of officials has been and will be, let's send you down to pit side and Gary Gerald.
Well, what has been a long, long day for the chief steward, Kirk Russell, has now arrived at a decision. Can you update us here?
Well, as you can see, darkness is approaching. If we could have had a dry track right now, we could be racing. There's still a little precipitation. The temperature's gone down. The track is really too damp to have any racing today. So we've called the activities for today. Right now, we're looking at trying to warm up as early as 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're going to need temperature, and we're going to need dry conditions, which we're not sure we're going to have, and we could race as early as 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
And in that warm-up session, concerns about temperature, have you decided how long or the duration of that warm-up session?
Well, we're looking at 15 minutes tomorrow morning, and 15 minutes should allow people to get to finish what they started today.
Thank you, Kirk. Paul?
Kirk Russell, the chief steward, who has been under a lot of pressure today. The times he mentioned are Central Times. We will have coverage on ESPN2 of the Miller Lite 225 at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. So join us then, and we will wait to hear also the schedule for the Indy Lights. So a long and very disappointing day, though the fans stuck it out to the absolute last minute. As a matter of fact, most of the drivers were hanging around the pit area as well. I think everybody hoping that they could get the race in today. Not to be, they have rescheduled it for Monday. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page. You may remember that yesterday we did everything we could, the kart officials, the teams, even the fans, to try to get the race in, but the rain was not cooperating. It's a little bit better today, and the forecast is for much better. Originally, they had hoped to get the race started sometime during the morning, but that seems pretty iffy now. Let's get the inside from the chief steward of kart, Kirk Russell, who has, I suspect, been up since dark 100 this morning, trying to figure out exactly what to do. What's the plan now?
Well, this morning when I did get up, it was raining pretty hard. We had a pretty bright sky for a while. We've got some overcast now and some sprinkles, but we're still working on drying the racetrack. Our plan right now, if everything goes perfectly, would be to warm up at 11 to 11:15 and have a green flag at 12:05.
And the warm-up is important because these cars need to be checked before they race.
Well, yeah, we did check them under yellow flag conditions yesterday, but the track has changed considerably with all the moisture. All the rubber that was put down during practice and qualifying is gone, and drivers just didn't feel that they got a comfortable feel of the track yesterday under those conditions.
All right, Kirk Russell, thanks for spending the time with us. I know you're real busy. He's got a lot of work to do. Well, the sun shines down on the historic Milwaukee Mile. We are ready for the Miller Lite 225, but again, we're going to have a slight delay. Not weather-related now. It's because Shinji Nakano had an incident with the wall. He lost it in 3, hit the wall in 4. They took him to the hospital here in the grounds, the medical center, but he has since been cleared to drive. As yet, though, we do not have a decision as to whether or not he will drive, though they brought the backup car to the pits. Jimmy Vasser only got 4 laps in the warm-up session just concluded. He had a fuel pressure problem. They took the car behind the wall. They worked on it. They have now decided they will start this race with the backup car.
Paul Tracy, who qualified 6th, his crew diagnosed a throttle position sensor problem. They've got it changed. Looks like it's running okay now.
So some of the practice speeds in this session, and remember, no one's necessarily trying to set the track on fire. They're just trying to make sure the car is ready, has Mauricio Guzman as the quickest. And here is the way that they will line up based on qualifying with Juan Montoya, Toyota Power, on the pole. The question, of course, still will remain in the 10th row there, Shinji Nakano, and whether or not he will be able to start this race.
The attraction of the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds is the 1 mile paved track. Green flag. And they're off. Look at White go! That's a lively one.
Even automobile journals admit that track racing of motor cars is dead. Milwaukee Journal, August 21st, 1905.
95 years later, these drivers proved that newspaper report wrong. For the 99th time in the 55th consecutive year, the Champ Cars battle on the Milwaukee Mile. 8 times the winner of the Indianapolis 500 went on to win the next race in Milwaukee. Today, Juan Montoya looks to add his name to that legendary list. after he captured the 84th running of the Indy 500 a week ago. Milwaukee is home to some of the most competitive wheel-to-wheel racing. It's fast, it's flat, it's furious. Paved with history, the Milwaukee Mile is ready for the new millennium. Well, welcome back once again to the Milwaukee Mile, and we're ready now, really, for the Miller Lite 225. The skies have cleared, the rain is gone. Hello and welcome, I'm Paul Page. The teams have had a tough time, long waiting, a lot of frustration, but we are ready to go. But with the weather, well, that'll affect the race, Parker.
It will. The conditions are very different than we've seen all weekend long. Not only has the rain taken a lot of the rubber off the track, there's now a strong wind blowing down the pit straightaway, and also they've got to contend with the fact that they have not raced in temperatures this cool all weekend long. It'll make for a real challenge for the drivers and the teams.
But it is so great to feel the sun on your face. Let's go down trackside and Gary Gerald.
At the head of this field, Paul, for the third time this season, Juan Montoya, last year's defending CART FedEx Series champion. But while he has led more than twice as many laps as any other driver in this series this year, when it comes to finishing laps, he's no better than 16th. Well, what he and this team want to do is build on the momentum of that victory at Indianapolis a week ago. They've swarmed over the car. They've got it race ready now. But he doesn't want to lead lap number 1. He wants to lead number 225 and get his first victory of this season and the first for engine supplier Toyota. Let's go to Jan Bikas.
Gary, on Friday, everything was going perfectly for Michael Andretti. In fact, he got out of the car with 25 minutes to go and said, I don't need to run anymore. Don't touch it, guys. It's perfect. Unfortunately, Saturday morning, he goes out. The tire pressure's not quite up to where he wants to be. He crashes in turn number 2 and ends up here in the spare car for today. This morning in the warm-up, he had more problems with the spare car. In fact, back here in the side pod area, they had to change the ECU, engine control unit, because the car shut down. Michael is not sure how it's going to be. He starts from the 10th spot, but he'll be moving forward as a 5-time winner here.
Well, the drivers are strapping into their cars, anticipating a green flag and a start here of the Miller Lite 225. Here's how they qualified, with Juan Montoya on the pole and Dario Franchitti, his first time on the front row since Australia of last year. Patrick Carpente and Gilles de Ferran make up row number 2. De Ferran scored his first oval win at Nazareth a week ago, giving car owner Roger Penske win 100. Christian Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy are in row 3. Tracy is the series points leader and the defending champion at Milwaukee. In row 4, Roberto Moreno and Mauricio Gugelmin, the fastest in practice. Big Mo finished second at Nazareth, his first podium finish since Vancouver in '97. In row 5, it's Max Pappas and Michael Andretti. As Jan mentioned, Michael Andretti crashed Saturday in practice, but today he's ready to charge to the front. In row 6, Tony Kanaan and Elio Castroneves. In the 7th row, Alex Tagliani and Jimmy Vasser, who had the fuel pickup problem this morning, switched to the backup car, but he crashed hard in his primary car during qualifying on Saturday. He'll start 14th. Oriol Servia and Kenny Breck, 2 rookies, make up row 8. The 9th row, Mark Blundell and Tarso Marquez. In row 10, it's Adrian Fernandez and Shinji Nakano in his backup car. He is okay. Cristiano D'Amata and Michel Jourdain Jr., the 11th row, and the 12th row, Luis Garcia Jr. So now we are waiting for them to command the engines into life. Montoya waiting to climb into the car. The sun is shining. The prediction is for a clear afternoon. If you haven't seen him run on the mile, you're going to love this. We'll be right back. Today's coverage of the Miller Lite 225 from the Milwaukee Mile is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. And by Miller Lite. For the coolest stuff in the world, go to the MillerGetTheGoods.com. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile. An interesting problem has just developed. Not one that's going to stop the race at all, but that large truck, the black truck just behind the pits themselves, normally would drive down the pits and top off the methanol fuel in each and every car. But when they started to do it a little while ago, it had collected so much water on top during the night that the water began to drain off. And so Chief Steward Kirk Russell said, "No, let's hold that right there, and let's do it by hand." And now they're running fuel to top off each of the cars up and down the pits. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
This has been a nightmarish type weekend for Jimmy Vasser, the teammate to Juan Montoya, who enjoyed such spectacular success, of course, in winning the Indy 500. Jimmy had a qualifying accident that really seriously damaged his primary car on Saturday afternoon. It also resulted in only 1 lap for time. He's going to be at mid-pack starting 14th. But in the warm-up session, he got only 3 laps in the car. They had a fuel pressure type problem. Had them take the car quickly back to the paddock, and a decision was then made as they brought it out. He got 1 lap at the checkered flag. It wasn't working right. The decision was made to go to the 1 remaining backup car, which is the backup car for his teammate Montoya. Vasser has not sat in this car this weekend. They've adjusted the pedals. They've got Jimmy's seat in it. They've got the number 12 now on it instead of the 1X. But Vasser is going to go out here and start this race without having run a lap in this car, and he's going to have to do it in the middle of the pack. It's a big load for Jimmy Vasser, and keep in mind one other thing. He didn't get to test here because of the practice time that was needed at Indianapolis. He got a lot of work ahead of him today. Jan?
Shinji Nakano had an accident in this morning's warm-up, and thankfully he is okay. He has been to the medical center. They checked him out. I had a quick word with him before he got into this car, which is his backup car, and he said, unfortunately, it was cold. My tires were not up to temperature, and I got into the wall. But otherwise, I'm feeling okay. The Walker team has this car ready, and he's obviously going to be a bit tentative on the start, but at least he's able to go out and run.
And that's good news for the Walker team. Yesterday, the crowd stayed here right through the final announcement. And then this morning, Monday, in Milwaukee, they came right back. We've got a healthy crowd here today, considering the 1-day delay. We'll be back right after this. In our first Toyota Spotlight for Milwaukee, we want to remind you that starts have been a problem this year. At Rio, Oriol Servia got in trouble. That wouldn't be the first time for Oriol. At Japan, right on the start, look up, top of the screen, caught the wall good as the green flag came out. And then a week ago, Nazareth, Pennsylvania, as they were starting, Cristiano D'Amata and Dario Franchitti. Dario spun, Cristiano went for cover. Cristiano was able to continue, but Dario Franchitti backed it into the wall, and his day was over. Well, there's Oriol Servia, Lite's champion, but a rookie in this series, and I'm sure he's given some serious thought to the start of this race. His teammate, Cristiano D'Amata, the sun shining down on the track. It's been shining some time now. That's going to change some things.
Well, it's been good for the drivers because with this delay, the track temperature is coming up, so is the outside ambient temperature. They'll still have to contend with a green track with the rain that we've had for the last day and a half. There will be a lot of drivers complaining of chassis ills until they're able to make adjustments at that first round of pit stops.
As the ceremonies now begin down trackside, and we're counting down to the start of this race. It's been a count that started over 24 hours ago. But these teams are ready to go racing, and I can tell you, I can't wait to get this race underway. We'll be back right after this. Paul Tracy comes to the line, and look at this, an amazing victory as Paul Tracy takes his 14th career win. Paul Tracy, the defending champion here, the current points leader in the series, has the command just given to start the engines. We are ready to go racing. Consider Paul Tracy, his 2 wins here, 2 poles, and 8 different starts.
And Milwaukee's been significant for him, Paul. In 1998, he struggled all year long. It was in 1999 with his win here that he went on to be an incredibly consistent finisher, placing in the top 5, 12 of 19 starts till today.
And perhaps, as you can tell by the cameras, the wind has begun to pick up and is blowing from north to south, which means it will be behind the cars as they come down the front straightaway. Take a look at the flags up there behind the pit area. The breeze has really picked up. So now with the engine started, we are finally set to do a 225 laps on the historic Milwaukee Mile. We'll be back with the start of the race right after these messages.
I'm Cristiano D'Amata. I'm 5'4", 130 pounds. That's too short for basketball. Too small for football. Yeah, 20 times a year, I take on an opponent weighing over 1,500 pounds. My size hasn't seemed to hurt me. I kick.
Back with the CART FedEx Championship Series, the Miller Lite 225. You look down from over the Milwaukee Mile from the Honda Helicam. The cars have started their engine, pulled out of the pits. We want to give you the full race analysis, which is the 225 laps here. The track now measures slightly more than a mile, and they expect speeds up near 194, 195 miles an hour. We've got some onboard cameras for you to help cover this field. Mark Blundell, he starts back in the field. There's Jimmy Vasser's onboard camera. They got it changed very quickly. Kudos to the camera crew for doing that. Now, Gary Gerald had a couple of things happen since the engine started.
Yeah, for Juan Montoya, he was delayed getting started. Stahl got him back powered up, no problem. He's on the track. But in the warm-up less than an hour ago, Paul, he was not happy with the handling, and they had been experimenting this weekend. But during the break, while they were getting the final setup on the car, they totally rebuilt the front wing configuration. I asked Bill Pappas, I says, is this a gamble? He says, no, it's just something that we're more comfortable with, that we've been basically running throughout the season. So Montoya with a different setup than he had in the warm-up less than an hour ago to pace the field. Let's go to Jan.
Well, Gary, for Paul Tracy, he had a similar situation to Michael Andretti, but of course he has a Honda power plan, and that is that he went out in the warm-up and said, guys, it just won't run. The engineers from Honda looked at it and they tracked it down to a sensor. They were able to change that sensor, and now it appears as though Paul Tracy's going to have all the power that he needs. And as the defending champ, Paul Tracy, one of those guys that you would think would be moving towards the front.
Something to consider is that 6 times in the last 7 years, the pole winner has led the first lap. Rhonda Trammell, who you'll see racing in the Barber Dodge Series, is in the pace car, bringing the field around. The front row is on the backstretch going into turn 3. Rest of the field beginning to alignment, picking up well in the front rows. There they are. Juan Montoya is on the pole. Remember, his car and Jimmy Vasser's will appear a little more similar this race because of the last-minute change. Green flag. Here we go. Clean start to this point. They head for turn 1 through 1 and 2. Oh, somebody got way high coming off of 1. Everything's still okay. Seems to be Michael. Montoya down the backstretch. Franchitti drops in behind him. Carpentier battles. Montoya leads the first lap. Michael and Christian Fittipaldi both running with one another. Gilles de Ferran running high, trying to move up. Boy, some good moves on the start for Gilles de Ferran.
And look at Michael Andretti move from 10th to 7th. That opening lap and a half. Now looking down the inside of Paul Tracy.
Michael Andretti pokes his nose down under Paul Tracy. Remember how well he normally is able to come up through this field. His teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, is just behind him. It's Montoya, Franchitti, Carpentier, and Gilles de Ferran at the front, with Gilles making a great start.
You'll see Michael Andretti all day long go down the inside of turn number 1. He drives a much closer line to the inside than anybody else in the field. Gives him an advantage and carry a little bit more speed. He's in a little cleaner air, but then he's got to slow down a little bit mid-corner. Sometimes hurts him coming off the exit.
Well, any apprehensions for the start are gone. They made a nice clean start. Came down nicely aligned, in fact. Max Pappas comes in to work on Christian Fittipaldi. This is a fight for 7th. That Max has Christian in his sights. Love it when they have that antenna, one of the transmission for voice communications. Of course, there are several on the car now, including not only voice, but data communications and the telemetry. Behind Max Pappas is Mauricio Guzman, who finished 2nd a week ago at Nazareth and was the fastest in the morning warm-up, though no one was really trying to go as fast as they could. They just want to make sure that the brakes in the car were working and nothing was leaking. Back at the front, there is Montoya. Franchitti is 7/10 back. In the front 5, nothing changes. Montoya, Franchitti, Carpentier, DeFerrin, and Tracy. Dario Franchitti runs in 2nd place right now. Jan?
Yes, and Paul, he has been very happy with his car on full tanks, as it would be now. But he does have a concern with the handling of the car once he starts to burn the fuel load off. They think they've made changes on the car to counteract that, but we'll have to see as the race progresses, can Dario run that fast?
Remember that Jimmy Vasser has had 2 problems this weekend. There is Jimmy. He started 14, got a good start, now is running 12. Also making good moves early. Kenny Breck started 16th up to 14th. And Roberto Moreno fell backwards. He started 7th and is now 10th.
The other driver we want to keep our eye on is Adrian Fernandez. He started 19th, currently running in 15th position. It's going to take about 30 to 40 laps into this run to really get an idea of whose chassis is working well and whose isn't. Jan mentioned that Dario's car was working well on full tanks. You've got to remember, 35 gallons of methanol, it's about 240 pounds of weight. As they burn that fuel off, it raises the rear ride height, shifts the center of pressure forward. They also get some tire wear, especially from the rear tires, to make these cars go from a benign understeer to a neutral handling car to a vicious oversteering car in just a few laps once they get to that critical fuel level.
Kenny Breck chasing Tony Kanaan and Jimmy Vasser. And just behind Breck, there's Adrian Fernandez and rookie Alex Tagliani behind Fernandez.
And even this early in the race, you're going to see the teams adopt 2 different strategies. You're going to watch Montoya, Franchitti, Carpentier. They're going to stand on it, try to dominate, get track position early in the race. The drivers like Fernandez, these guys running in the back, are going to try a different strategy. They're going to try to go as lean as possible, still running as quickly as possible so they don't go a lap down. Remember, that was the key to Paul Tracy's victory last year, being able to go 101 laps on a tank of fuel. That gave him the all-important track position to lead the last lap.
Juan Montoya at the front of the field. He'll be overhauling the back of the field very shortly here. When you saw Adrian Fernandez last night, we were talking to him in downtown Milwaukee, and he didn't think we were going to get to run this thing today. He thought the forecast was less than great, but the sunshine has come out, and we will, in fact, have sunshine throughout the afternoon. Gary Gerald.
Adrian, in that warm-up, Paul, was very concerned. He said the front wasn't working good, the back wasn't working good. I don't know about the middle, but that's a lot of concerns going into a 225-lap race. And because he's starting back in 19, we also suspect, as Parker was mentioning, different strategies. If there's an early yellow, we may see Adrian go out of sequence with the rest of the field, trying to gamble for track position later on.
Juan Montoya now closing on the last car in the field. That is Shinji Nakano, and I think properly so. He's taken it a little bit easy. He caught the wall pretty good this morning, and this is the backup car, and he didn't have any laps today in that backup car. But this is allowing, whoa, Montoya skates just a little bit off of 2. Franchitti now trying to close in. Montoya around Nakano. Luis Garcia Jr. is next for Montoya. Can Franchitti now handle up Nakano easily? I have to wait at least another 2 corners. Franchitti may be able to move on him on the backstretch.
Remember, this year they're running a different downforce configuration than they did last year. Last year they ran the Super Speedway wings, which produced about 3,000 pounds at their top speed. This year, with the Hanford Mark II device and the front wings.
Here's a move by Carpentier as he takes a hard look inside of Franchitti.
This year they're up to 3,500 pounds, and Paul, the concern is last year with the smaller wings, the braking area was extended. They were going from higher speed to lower speed. This year they're afraid it's shortened that braking area up, which means the only opportunity that you'll get is on the outside of the corner if you get a better run down the straightaway on the entry, or just a last-minute dive bomb down the inside.
Franchitti is trying to figure out his way around Shinji Nakano, 23rd in the field. Franchitti currently 2nd. And that's allowed Carpentier to close, and at the same time is allowing Montoya to get away. Now as they come onto the straightaway, you look up track there, Gilles de Ferran is also closing in. So second place, third place, fourth place, all bottling up now behind Shinji Nakano.
And the problem you've got is until they caught Shinji, they were running a full second quicker than they are now. If you can't capitalize on your momentum to get by the slower car, you get bottled up behind that car. You start running at the same pace, the same rhythm. And now, if you're in Dario's position, you start getting a little frantic because everyone's coming up behind you, trying to force the inside, the outside at the same time that you're trying to make progress on the car in front of you.
And remember, too, the fields are so close in their qualifying and in their racing. You're only talking a couple of miles an hour difference, just a few tenths of a second from fastest to slowest. Look there. Looks like Franchitti drops back to give him a shot. Carpentier takes advantage of it. He comes inside of Franchitti. Franchitti tries to stay on the outside. He battles with Carpentier. I think he's hoping for momentum that he did not get coming off of turn 2. Carpentier goes to second place. Franchitti drops back to third. De Ferran closes in. Right behind De Ferran now is Paul Tracy.
And this is exactly what Montoya wants. He's been picking up about 7/10 of a second while they've been stuck behind Shinji. And if you're leading this race, this is exactly how you want traffic to play into your hands.
Dario Franchitti got snockered there on the main straightaway. And Jan Bikas, you've been watching him.
Yes, Paul, remember, he was one of the drivers that has been very critical of the Hanford device, the rear wing that is on these cars on the 1 mile oval. He says it makes so much turbulence that you can't get up behind someone and run side by side. And effectively, with Shinji Nakano and all that turbulence, you can see why he doesn't like it.
Okay, I got to think about this one because Franchitti is Scottish, and I think I said he got snockered when I meant he got snookered, and I don't want to get in any trouble with a Scotsman who has a great temper, I would suspect. Montoya leads, Carpentier second, Franchitti is third, followed by Gilles de Ferran, Paul Tracy. They are all running very tight, with, of course, the exception of Montoya, who is gone.
As Jan said, Paul, the Hanford ice, here comes Michael.
Michael Andretti comes looking down the inside of Tracy. Acceleration pays off here. Michael's got him. Now can he handle Nakano? Nakano has been the roadblock that they've all had to work their way around.
That Hanford device puts up a lot of drag. It helps slows the car down the straightaways. On super speedways, it allows for a lot of drafting on these short ovals. It creates enough turbulence. Whoa!
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Shinji
Nakano
coming off the fourth corner.
Yep, that brings out the yellow, first yellow of the day. It's on the 26th lap. Nakano is able to keep it going after catching the car and brings it on around. So Nakano, watch him up there, the blue and white car, loses it right on the exit of the corner.
He just sort of pitched the wheel down on the exit, and he was very, very fortunate there that he was able to get it straightened out and keep it from spinning towards the inside pit wall.
But Nakano is able to continue on. No doubt he has to head for the pits and get a fresh set of tires at very least. Juan Montoya, the pole sitter, has led every one of the 27 laps thus far. Well, back on the Milwaukee Mile, we are still under yellow. Shinji Nakano spun, didn't touch anything coming off the 4, but a number of cars did decide to split the strategy and head into the pits. Montoya this season, laps completed, laps led, but as yet to convert any of those into a CART FedEx Series win. And we had some of the cars into the pits and stops, and that will split the way the whole fuel strategy plays out in the race. They have plenty of fuel, but when and how they take it in, that's a whole different situation.
That's exactly right, Paul. I mean, sometimes CARTs criticize. People think that if they gave more fuel, the racing would be better. You'd have to understand, no matter how much fuel they put in the tanks in the pits, the whole idea is to try to pit under the yellow, gain pit position. The less fuel you use, the less they have to put in the cars, the quicker the pit stop, the more you gain in the pit. So overall, you're always going to have those two strategies, going for broke and trying to extend it as far as possible, no matter how much fuel is available in the pit lane.
All in all, 9 different cars came in to the pits, and in many cases, the teams split off. Like Jimmy Vasser came in, Montoya stayed out, Breck came in, Pappas stayed out. did that also with Andretti. Ready to go green once again. Montoya acknowledges the green flag. They're back up to racing speed. Carpentier follows in second. Here comes Christian Fittipaldi battling with Paul Tracy.
Oh, down 2 gears there. And you can see how he got pitched off right on the turn and lost a lot of speed. But look at him come off that corner with that lower gear.
Max is fighting that wheel more than I've seen in a while.
You've got to remember, tires are cold now. Shows you how green the track is. All weekend long, the drivers ran in 1 gear, just in top gear. But now with the reduced cornering speeds, the reduced race pace, with the increased fuel loads and these fresh tires, they're having to go down 1 or 2 gears. We've had a lot of testing accidents in the last couple of years with drivers downshifting on the ovals.
Toyota, Ford, Honda, front 3 at the field. Montoya, Carpentier, Dario Franchitti. Andretti is 5th. Those first fuel stops by 9 cars in the field were made on the 28th lap. For the time being, almost everyone has lined up single file. But again, very shortly, Juan Montoya will begin to close on the back of the field. Jan Vikas.
For Christian Fittipaldi, just before that yellow flag, he was having a handling problem. The car was pushing. So the crew radioed back on the radio and said, try your bar. That would be the anti-roll bar that you can adjust inside the car. It seems to have helped it. He also told the team that with the tires the way they feel right now, he does not feel you can go 2 stints on 1 set of tires.
The Newman-Haas team was not one of those that elected to stop early on the 28th lap. 1 yellow thus far, Shinji Nakano. He had a pretty devastating crash this morning, chopped off the left rear of the car, but they cleared him out of the medical center and they put Shinji in the backup car. He's currently still running at the back of the field.
It's interesting what Jan said about tires. I talked to some of the engineers earlier in the weekend. They had run 75, 80 laps on a set of tires. Said they had remained very consistent, not only in balance, but also lap times. But usually they do that short periods of a time. There weren't a lot of teams doing long runs. It'll be interesting to see how that strategy plays out, because if we get to the end and they need to do a short distance, will they elect just to do a splash and go, or also put on a fresh set of tires as well?
Just behind 8th place Max Pappas, Mauricio Guzman, and Tony Kanaan, there they are as they begin to battle, and Oriol Servia pulls up. Look at this, Kenny Breck makes a move trying to get Castroneves. That's 15th place, but it's a nice little battle. And both of those cars are ones that stop on lap 28, both Helio Castroneves and Kenny Breck. And for that matter, Adrian Fernandez behind him. Let's go to 14th place, Jimmy Vasser. Made good moves early. Front of the field, Patrick Carpentier now beginning to inch up on Juan Montoya. Carpentier is the track record holder here at 185 miles an hour, but that's since the alterations to the car to slow them down. Here it slowed them down considerably. In fact, right now running in traffic, well, out of traffic, the front runner, Juan Montoya, is at 158.5 miles an hour.
Well, we started to talk about it a little bit earlier when Carpentier set that track record. They were running about 4,000 pounds of downforce, did about a 22nd lap. Last year, they went to the super speedway wings and brought the downforce back to 3,000 pounds. This year, they're at 3,500 pounds. They're about a second slower than Carpentier's record lap back in 1998 in qualifying.
Gilles de Ferran quickest last time around. Of course, a lot of that owes to traffic. Part of the traffic was Nakano, but this time the leaders were able to get past Nakano quite easily. Montoya, Carpentier, there's Dario Franchitti. Montoya quickest once he got around Shinji Nakano. Look at that down there. Tony Kanaan second quick on that lap. And a lot of that owes to traffic. It is such a short track. Montoya around Luis Garcia Jr. Let's go back in the field. Jimmy Vasser. And right behind him, he has Helio Castroneves and then Kenny Breck.
And right now, Paul, the entire field is running somewhere between a 23.5 to a 23.7 second lap. It's the same thing we saw at Nazareth. But once things settle down, the front cars start catching the back markers, everything settles down into this pace. And part of it's been attributed to that Hanford device. Whoa, look at this. Just trying to have a look down the inside, and the only thing you see is that every once in a while someone will make a mistake and get bunched up. That allows the cars behind them to group up.
Vasser gets through, Castroneves gets through, Kenny Breck and Adrian Fernandez get caught.
That Hanford device produces a huge draft as well as turbulence, but here on a short 1 mile oval where the straightaways are just over 1,200 feet long, the draft just isn't strong enough to allow the following driver to take advantage of it and make a move at the end of these short straightaways.
Cristiano D'Amata gets around, Mark Blundell gets trapped.
Well, you think right now Shinji is extremely gun-shy after his crash and warm-up and then having the spin coming off 4.
Making a move, trying to grab the position from Blundell is Michel Jourdain Jr. They're back at 19th and 20th, but they are fighting for position. On board the Mercedes-powered machine of Mark Blundell.
And you notice riding with Mark, he's not shifting at all versus Max that we saw a little earlier, who was going down 2 gears coming into turn 3. These corners are only banked 4 degrees. It seems virtually flat to the drivers. The corners are a little bit longer in length than the straightaways themselves.
Max Pappas says he works on Christian Fittipaldi. For Mark Blundell, remember that he was in a pretty hefty crash at Nazareth, and he's been sore all week, so this one extra day, the rain delay, helps him.
He had a huge hit. It looked like a super speedway crash, and as you said, he's been trying to loosen up his neck, his shoulders, and this extra day should really help him.
Christian Fittipaldi, the winner a year ago here in Wisconsin at Road America, and Max Pappas, the first winner of this year. "52 laps are complete. The leader is doing 156.5 miles an hour as a lap average. Montoya is followed by Patrick Carpentier, Dario Franchitti, Gilles de Ferran, and Michael Andretti is in fifth. 9 cars made the first round of stops already on the 28th lap. It's Toyota, Ford, Honda, the top 4. The Miller Lite 225 with 52 laps now complete, and Juan Montoya on the pole has led every one of those laps.
And just a few laps ago, Montoya was 1.7 seconds ahead of Carpentier. Patrick has brought that down to just over a half a second now. He's closing. Looks like his car's working extremely well, especially on the entrance of turns 1 and 3.
On the 28th lap, these are the cars that pitted. So they are now out of sequence with the front of the field. And the game is a play. 60 laps complete now. Not that much longer until the rest of the field should stop.
Well, we saw the cars get extremely good fuel mileage at Nazareth, but we're thinking somewhere around lap 80 Of course, it's been extended now with the yellow flag, maybe as late as 85 to 90. These cars will start coming in. We'll get a better idea of what kind of mileage they're getting around Milwaukee.
It is often said that when they go to yellow, they make a lot of mileage. It's not really that much of an increase, is it? The engines are essentially efficient at any speed.
Well, we're talking about somewhere between 2.2 to 2.5 miles per gallon, and race condition occasionally more than that. The yellow sometimes 6, 7 miles per gallon. They go up to 6th gear and lead it out as much as they can. Really depends on the driver. If you look at percentage-wise, you're looking at a threefold increase that can be significant when it comes down to the last few laps.
Montoya still having to work through traffic. Carpentier is right behind him, and Jan Bikas, he's having a good day.
He really is, Paul. I have asked the team a couple of times if he has said anything on the radio, any kind of handling problems. They say no. They expect to make no changes during the pit stop. He's very happy. And considering that the conditions here have changed a lot since once they practiced, obviously they picked a pretty good setup.
Well, Patrick Carpentier is going to be in the position of closing on the leader while the leader is closing on Carpentier's teammate, Alex Tagliani. He's just ahead as they come onto the front stretch, and Gary Gerold's watching tag.
Interesting observation here. Tagliani's crew has told him that the leaders are getting out of turn 4 quicker than he is. They've suggested to the rookie driver Tagliani that he go up a little bit closer to the wall, take a higher line to go faster. Maybe Parker, you can relate to what it's like on a flat track like Milwaukee to take it out closer to the wall and alter your driving style at mid-race.
Well, and the big problem you've got coming off that 3rd and 4th corner, Gary, is that it's very difficult to get any visual references. Going down into 1 and 2, you've got the line that delineates the pit out. It's almost a classic road race, late apex around the corner. But here, coming into 3, all you see is white wall all the way around the outside, and there's nothing really to guide you out to the fence. During practice, it was really only Andretti and Kenny Breck that was using all of the road all of the time. And now, Paul and I were up here commenting, a lot of the guys are using like 6, 8 feet from the edge of the wall.
Things happen so fast on the mile. Jill DeFerrin came up, closing on Franchitti. Now watch this. This is just 1 lap ago. At the time, Franchitti was in 2nd place. Look at DeFerrin come rocking it off that corner.
He got a great exit coming off the corner, drafted up behind and tucked neatly down the inside of Dario.
So battle for 3rd, changes the position. Franchitti drops back to 4th. DeFerrin is in 3rd. Montoya followed by Carpentier, 1 and 2. 67 laps complete. They've got to be thinking about it in the pits. Next, maybe 10 laps away, and those laps roll off very quick. Numbers on the battle for 2nd. With that run that DeFerrin got to move around Franchitti and into 3rd. Look at him now close on Carpentier.
And Carpentier's got to stay close enough behind Montoya that if he gets the right break in traffic, he can capitalize on the draft, on his momentum to get by. But now he's got another problem, and that's the closing Gilles DeFerrin. You've got one eye looking forward, the other eye looking back. You don't want to give Gilles any openings because he'll certainly take advantage of it.
Gilles DeFerrin closes in now and definitely is on the rear wing of Patrick Carpentier. Remind you of who the team combinations are, while at the same time we show you how Gilles DeFerrin has been closing the leader through the past few laps. Jan Bikas.
Shinji Nakano has been on pit road here for the last few laps. He said the car went extremely loose. Now they've gone to the backup car, or to the back of the car. It looks like they're going to make a spring change. That's something you don't see too often during a race. You might as well treat it as a test day to give him some miles.
I had that happen once at Nazareth. From the drop of the green, the car was extremely loose, and then it got worse. And that's exactly what we did, as we turned it into a test session, tried to get as many miles as possible. Shinji, at this point, there's got to be very careful that he doesn't get in the way of the race that's going on, and I'm sure Derek Walker will be mindful of that.
First 6 cars are all running right together now, led by Montoya, with Carpentier closing in as best he can. He's just about to the area. I would guess he's beginning to pick up quite a bit of turbulence.
Yes, he's pulled it up now to just over 0.2 of a second. They've maintained just about a second over DeFerrin. Gilles dropped back just a little bit. Once again, Carpentier hoping for the break he needs in traffic to take advantage of Montoya.
And of course, as we've seen so many times on the mile at Milwaukee, third place. DeFerrin just kind of watching what's going on up there, because if they close traffic and get bottled, he can grab one, if not two or three, right away. In this case, grabbing two would put him in the lead.
And Paul, from our position, I'm looking across to the pits. I'm seeing guys starting to bring tires up on the wall, fuelers and vent guys grabbing the hoses. And I think we've got 4, maybe 5 laps. We should see the leaders come in.
74 laps are complete right now, 151 to go. Carpentier now dropped back just a bit, but as you can see, there is traffic just ahead. Dario Franchitti lined up just behind Gil DeFerrin, with Michael Andretti behind him. And Oriol Servia, who started 15th, is now 11th. He just got around Tony Kanaan. Now at the Penske team, they wait for Gil DeFerrin, who is on pit road. Jan?
Yes, and this is a bit earlier than you would expect, but remember that big aggressive pass he made on Franchitti? Maybe he's been using the button and using more fuel when he's on the racetrack. I asked and they said they did not expect to make any changes, so let's look closely and see if they do. Nothing on the front wing, waiting for fuel. He has to wait for Tony Kanaan, but about a 12.2 second stop for DeFerrin.
Oh, yeah, pitch it sideways coming out. DeFerrin leaves the pits. Kanaan comes in, so does Michael Andretti. Michael, a change of 4, fuel going in. Haven't seen a touch of any of the aerodynamic surfaces, meaning they haven't changed the wings. And Michael Andretti heads back. Lap 78 for Michael. And Dario Franchitti comes into the pits now. That moves Tracy up to 3rd, Fittipaldi up to 4th. What should happen here is all of the front runners should just swap positions with those guys who stopped back on 28. Here comes Christian Fittipaldi out of 3rd place. Jan Beekes.
Also for Christian Fittipaldi, not expected to make any changes. No front wing changes. A little bit slow, possibly on the right front. Wow, that was pretty good. 12.2.
Christian Fittipaldi comes out and around Tarso Marquez, and Paul Tracy is in. Routine for Tracy. Max Pappas comes in. Look at this. This is at the front of the field. Carpentier and Montoya. They keep at it. Neither one of them stop. That's Oriol Servia. Montoya gets around him. And Carpentier heads for the pits. Montoya stays out. So Patrick Carpentier, who has been working hard on Montoya from 2nd place, heads for his pit. Jan?
And he has a nice clear shot coming in here. That's what the drivers hope for. They don't like to have to weave around other people's tires. There's no one in front, no one behind. He's resetting the fuel meter on the steering wheel. Again, just waiting for fuel. Nice stop, 11.3 on my watch.
So Carpentier comes back into the fight, but the leader, Montoya, you see his crew just started to lay out equipment for him, and this is telling us something about fuel mileage. The Toyota is going to go to at least the 84th lap.
You know what's surprising, as you mentioned, Paul, we haven't seen any of the leaders make an aerodynamic adjustment to the front of their cars. Very, very surprising, considering the green condition of the track.
So as the leader, Montoya, comes down in the pits, Gary Gerould waits for him.
Paul, this series of pit stops that we've been watching is really something we haven't seen much of. These guys having to get green flag stops. At Nazareth, they were almost all under the yellow. Rob Hill on the right front is wearing a helmet cap. They're not expecting any aero changes. Tire changes are complete, waiting for the fuel. Clock ticking, 11 plus, 12 in a fraction for Montoya.
Montoya is the last pit on the road, so he has a clear run onto the access road and then onto the track itself.
And you can see Rob Hill, his right front tire guy, became a human wheel chalk there. I don't know if I'd do that. That's pretty amazing, though, because Juan Montoya was able to get significantly better mileage, almost 9 laps better than Gilles de Ferran, while leading the race.
The best of that round of stops was Michael Andretti at 11.3 seconds. Montoya was in it at 12.1. So now with the stops occurring, here's your leader, Roberto Moreno, the 20 car out of the Patrick Racing stable. He was one of the cars that stopped earlier, so as we suggested, they will now have about almost a 40-lap advantage before they stop again. Unless, of course, the yellow flag comes out and then the game changes again.
And, Paul, they are targeting lap 109 as a possible stopping point for Roberto Moreno.
So the first 9 cars in the order now: Moreno, Vassar, Castroneves, Kenny Brack, Adrian Fernandez, Mark Blundell, Cristiano D'Amata, Michel Jourdain Jr., and Alex Tagliani. Those are the top 9. They are all the cars that pitted back on lap 28. Back at the Milwaukee Mile, the Miller Lite 225 on a day filled with sunshine as you look down from the Honda Helicam as the battle between Jimmy Vassar, Elio Castroneves, Kenny Brack heads for turn 3. Now, we mentioned the differing strategies and how the first 9 cars all stopped on lap 28. Well, if you look down to 10th place, those are the cars that stopped later. And in that battle, Parker Andretti was the winner.
He was a big winner within that group. He went from 5th place relatively to now leading Montoya. Although Montoya now is only 1.7 seconds behind him, so Montoya is closing the gap to Michael Andretti.
Shinji Nakano's team pulls his car behind the wall. He is out of competition. Gary Gerald, let me ask you, the only team to stop both cars was the Patrick Racing team. They both stopped early.
And that was a decision made by longtime veteran chief Jim McGee. McGee is just an absolute master, and he believes firmly, particularly on the mile ovals, if you've got an opportunity to pit under yellow, do it at that time. So on lap 28, he brought both Roberto Moreno and Adrian Fernandez in, even though they were separated by 9 positions or thereabouts at that time. We're expecting Moreno around lap 109. Fernandez, they've been tinkering with tire pressures. He's gone down about a half pound. He's reporting now that the car's not too bad. They may keep it there, but we expect that Moreno will be in that lead group to make the second pit stop of the day. And, of course, this is already determined for them. It'll definitely be a 3-stop race.
Well, Roberto Moreno had about a 5-second lead a few laps ago and now has a 3-second lead, as, again, the leaders of the field are having to work their way past slower traffic. You saw Vassar come around, then Kenny Brack got bottled up. He got around. Now here comes Adrian Fernandez, Mark Blundell, and Cristiano D'Amata.
It's going to play out to be an interesting strategy. I was just doing a little math here. If this stays green, those cars that are now currently leading will have to make 2 more stops. The cars that came in between lap 75 and 84, they only have to stop 1 more time if it remains green.
That ride is with the Motorola Pac West car of Mark Blundell. Here is Roberto Moreno. And that's second place right there. That's Jimmy Vassar. There's third, Elio Castroneves. And he's followed by Kenny Brack. 100 laps complete. That used to be the halfway point here. But because that race got so short, the promoters decided that they would extend the distance to 225 laps. Montoya with Michael Andretti, and Montoya grabs Andretti. So Montoya gets back into his position relative to the cars that started at the front and stayed there until the later pit stop. That makes sense? Yeah, I think so. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh,
Aaron working hard.
And you can see Gilles carried a lot of speed into turn 3, and the car just washed up high on him. Unfortunately, Carpentier had already cleared his path. And look at these teammates.
Oh, let's be careful. Tracy and Carpentier. Elio Castroneves comes into the pits. Jan.
Yes, and when they dropped it off the jacks, it rolled forward just a little bit, and now he can't find a gear. Oh, there's the first gear. Oh, he lost some valuable time under a green. It was a very quick stop. They were at 11.9, and then for some reason the car was not in gear. It sounded like it was in neutral.
Elio Castroneves, one of those who stopped back at the 28th lap, the first of those from that group to stop again. He comes up to speed. Moreno still the leader. Vassar second, Breck third. Fernandez fourth, Blundell fifth, D'Amata sixth. Michel Jourdain Jr. comes into the pits. And now Jimmy Vassar slows on the front stretch and heads for the pit road. He was one of those that
you got
stopped.
a clean shot at us, buddy. Clean shot at us. You got Ricky.
He stopped on lap 28, Gary Gerald.
That was Tom Anderson, you heard, telling him he had a clean shot. Here comes Vassar. Remember, what a job he's doing in a car that he hadn't sat in this weekend. Ricky is Ricky Davis on the right front. And now Vassar's out of here.
Yeah, buddy. Good job.
Slightly different style for Ricky Davis as opposed to Rob Hill. As Mark Blundell comes in, Ricky just kind of holds the front wheel in place. Blundell, too, one of those who stopped on 28. So these are routine. You just have 9 cars running out of sequence. And one of them is Roberto Moreno. But now he has, with those stops, Kenny Breck working right on the back end of his car, and Breck trying to move for the lead. Kenny Breck, the rookie, slams it into the lead around Roberto Moreno. Adrian Fernandez, third place. Looking for second, takes it away from Moreno. So 2 passes on Roberto Moreno in just 1 lap.
Kenny Breck had a disappointing qualifying. He was 5th overall in the combined practice. They just missed the balance on the qualifying run. And remember, he was so fast at Nazareth. He's been so quick on all the ovals.
Roberto Moreno was the leader, fell to 3rd, now heads into the pits, and Gary.
We watch along with Jim McGee, Pat Patrick, Ed Nathman, and the crew that's over the wall.
Fire. Gary, there's a fire down here. Sorry, Gary. Alex Tagliani came in and started to pull away, and the fuel hose broke loose, and they're pouring water everywhere. Again, it's a methanol fire. You can't see the flames. Now we have the pit steward, Dennis Swan, saying the flames are out, no more water. They're trying to get him out of the car. And that is one of the safety aspects of methanol fuel. It does dissipate and dilute with water.
Jan, you may not be able to see, but there appears to be one of the crew members down, now getting up. That was on a routine stop by Alex Tagliani. Jan Beek is right there, jumped right on top of it, and will be able to get the full story as soon as they deal with the situation and make sure that everybody's okay. That puts some water out onto the pit road. Not enough to be a factor at this point. Kenny Breck, the leader, stays out. Adrian Fernandez, second place in the pits. Gary?
We talk about these drivers and the importance of hitting the marks. Adrian doing that. If you miss the marks, you may be too close to the wall, not enough room to work. If you're too far away, the fuel hose won't reach the car. That's why it's critical. Everything's routine for Adrian as he's gone.
So there's the guy that stays out, Kenny Breck. Jan Beekes, now that it's calmed down a little, what happened?
Well, a scary moment for Alex Tagliani. We saw the fire. What happened?
Well, actually, I was on the clutch. I put it in first gear, and there's something's wrong because the car started to drag, and the fuel was still in the car. So that's why fuel came out, the hose came out, and the car started to burn. But everything is fine for me.
So no burns for you. Any ill effect? Did you feel the heat?
No, at no time. You know, the guys were pretty quick. threw water on me, and I was out of the car.
Well, guys, looks like everyone here is okay, thankfully. Thank you. Gary?
And good news there. Kenny Breck getting service here, and this is taking longer than expected. Apparently has stalled. Something has gone wrong here. Now we hear the engine roar to life. We're partially screened, but it's just over a 20-second stop for Kenny Breck, who stayed out a very long time.
Very costly when you're running the mile for Kenny Breck. Now, with all of the stops by the first 9, Montoya goes back into the lead, but because of his great pit stop when he was in and his good driving, Michael Andretti is in second place. Carpentier is in third. DeFerrin is fourth. Paul Tracy is fifth.
There are 2 different sequences that a driver can go through during the course of a pit stop. We've seen 2 different strategies create 2 different problems. Castroneves came in, downshifted into neutral, make sure for a nice safe stop. He's up in the air. Generally, they won't grab first until the car is on the ground and they're just about ready to pull the fuel in the vent hose. Castroneves' problem is he couldn't find first gear. Tagliani, the other strategy, he leaves it in gear. The problem is the clutch can overheat and the car can start to creep. And if he does pull it back into first gear, if it's not engaged, the thing will lock up and start to pull away, even though you've got your foot on the brake, and that's what caused that problem. So 2 different strategies, 2 different problems, both created the same problem. Slow pit stops, and in Tagliani's case, the end of his race.
Juan Montoya is the leader. Michael Andretti moving in, followed by Carpentier, DeFerrin, and Paul Tracy. Toyota, Ford, Honda. We'll be back. Back at the Miller Lite 225, nothing has changed since we left you. Montoya leads it. Andretti is still trying to run him down, but the position has remained pretty equal, first to second, in terms of timing the last several laps. Alex Tagliani is one of 2 cars out of the race, along with Shinji Nakano. Here's what happened, Parker.
Now watch when they drop the car back on the ground. You'll see it lurch forward. They make a wing adjustment to the front, and it starts to creep. And what happened is, as he selected first gear, the clutch was overheated, and the car just took off.
And there is fire burning at that moment. Methanol does not burn with a flame. I don't know how many times we've said that. I guess at the same time, I don't know how many times I wondered why there couldn't be an additive in there so that it would burn with color. But then the answer has always been, well, that affects the performance and can damage the engine. Montoya with Andretti a second and a half back. A little further back in the field, Max Pappas in 7th place is trying to catch that car just ahead. That's Dario Franchitti, who started in 2nd. And in fact, Max is getting it done.
Line them up, Max. Be patient and line them up.
Bobby Rahal, Max's owner, talks to his driver who won the first race this year.
You can see from this onboard the difference in the line technique. Dario Franchitti stays out wider, more of a traditional road racer, doesn't even attempt to get close to the inside. Max going down a little bit earlier, diamonding the corner a little bit more like Michael Andretti. Car's a little bit more stable on the entry this way. It comes in a little bit straighter. Also, he's running in cleaner air, running in that inside lane from Dario Franchitti.
From up above.
And as a reference, use that repaved area, that long patch on the inside of both corners. Watch where Dario places his wheels versus the trailing car of Max Pappas. You can see Max is all the way down the inside. Dario about a half a car without, coming through turns 1 and 2. You'll see the same thing down 3 and 4. Max is even offset going down the straightaways. Dario that time a little farther to the inside, but Max all the way to the inside of the yellow curbing.
Further update now on the incident involving Alex Tagliani and the fire in the pits. Jan Vikas.
Yes, Paul, I had said it appeared as though there were no injuries to the crew members. I just checked with team owner Jerry Forsythe, and he said, in fact, that is the case, that everyone appears to be fine. And obviously that is great news, and I think it shows why the methanol fuel is used in this type of racing.
And not only is it good news, but thanks for the confirmation, because the replay a little more frightening. We didn't see originally how bad the incident looked, and it's good to hear that everybody is okay. 133 complete. You're on board Max Pappas Miller Lite car.
Even though they repaved this track a number of years ago, it's starting to get bumpy again. As we rode along with Max, you could see there are several bumps down on the entry of turn 1, but it's coming off of turn 2. There's a large bump there that have caught a lot of drivers off guard over the years, and then another entry bump on the way into 3.
In a fight for 10th, Oriol Servia now trying to hold off Adrian Fernandez. Right behind them is Tony Kanaan. These are the last 3 cars on the lead lap.
Good run by Oriol Servia, last year's Indy Lights champion. Had problems with starts here the last few races. He got it right this last Nazareth race. Had a good run there, and he's running strong here again.
Adrian Fernandez, one of our winners this year. Still looking for a repeat in that category.
And even between these 2 drivers, Paul, you can see the difference in their lines. You can see Adrian going down earlier. He comes off the corner a little closer to the inside. Oriol, especially in the exit of turn 4, lets the steering out sooner, tries to use up a little bit more road, pick up the throttle probably a little sooner. Watch the difference as they come off the corner. Oriol out a bit wider, Adrian keeping a little bit more to the inside, looking for clean air.
Juan Montoya picked up a point for taking the pole. He has now picked up another point in the championship for leading the most laps here. There's Tony Kanaan as he begins to join this battle. Jan Beekes.
Yes, during the pit stop that we watched at the Penske team, we saw him swing around. I believe it was Gilles de Fer and Tony Kanaan. And I was able to see that during Kanaan's pit stop, they put a whole bunch of front wing into that car. One of the few cars that we've seen chassis changes on here today.
Well, Tony Kanaan currently in 12th place, the last car on the leader lap. He drives Morris Nunn, new team this year. Morris, the engineer at Target Chip Ganassi Racing last year. Leader, Juan Montoya, last lap around 157.4 miles an hour average.
Contrast that to their qualifying speed of 177.7 miles an hour. So down about 20 miles an hour, about a normal race pace. But once again, almost the entire field now is running somewhere between 23.5 to 23.7 second laps.
Running through the engine manufacturers and who drives for them. The upper left-hand corner, Toyota drivers, now the Ford. Montoya looking for Toyota's first victory.
We've kept track of that engine battle all year long. Ford's won 3 races, Honda 2. Toyota's been the dominant force, leading the most laps, with this driver, Juan Montoya, just trying to get the brakes. Every time they've been in position to win, something strange has happened, like the electrical connector coming off at Motegi. Maybe today will be their day.
And if it is, I'm going to be part of that party. That's going to be a party.
Well, Lee White and the whole gang at TRD have been working very, very hard for a long time for this day. And they know it's just a matter of time.
Lee White going to smile?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Separation remains about the same, Montoya to Michael Andretti. Just over 2 seconds. 142 laps complete. Charpentier runs in 3rd. He's about 2 seconds back from Michael Andretti.
You know, as we watch Montoya, Paul, his car is so stable. Never moves over the bumps. It's not the usual aggressive driving style we see of Montoya. It looks like it's on railroad tracks as it comes off the second corner. Same thing through 3 and 4. The car is just very, very stable. Excellent chassis setup, and he's driving the car absolutely as consistently and as smoothly as he possibly can.
And yet, time and time again, you've heard people talk about how quick he is with his hands. Last year at St. Louis, Chip Ganassi gave me one of their computer telemetry tracings of his wheel position and his speed and wheel slip as he just literally totally lost it in the second turn at St. Louis. He turned it full lock one side, full lock the other side, but the amazing thing was he caught it and he never lifted on the throttle. Just amazing.
He's got that perfect blend of intelligence, skill, bravery, all the things that you want in a driver. And Ganassi, with their equipment, have given him confidence. And he came here confident, but certainly that's developed now to a new level. So He doesn't think he can do anything wrong. He knows he's got the crew and the equipment behind him to get races won and championships won, and that's the perfect combination that you're looking for between a driver and a team.
Parker, there's a lot of talk among the crews about the rear wing configuration, especially, and the configuration that they are in this year for running ovals, and a lot of talk about potential future change as we're watching Servi and Fernandez, that battle for 10th again with Tony Kanaan back there in 12th place.
Well, once again, I mean, CART has done its best to try to reduce speeds while still maintaining good racing action from weekend to weekend on the varied sorts of circuits that the CART Championship Series runs on. It's very difficult to find that balance. Now the idea is to try to reduce the horsepower, but doing it in such a way that it still leaves some technological challenge for the engine manufacturers, still gives the drivers control so that they're not just full throttle everywhere, but it brings the driver's ability back into the equation. And there are some simple solutions, but I don't think any one solution is permanent. You've got to look at the big pictures between tires, chassis, and engine. And it's going to take more than just a few people on a weekend to come up with the right solution to that problem.
Cup, you'll see mid-season changes, but the technology here is much different.
It is, and that's what complicates the entire issue.
All right, Jan Bikas, Michael Andretti, still about 2 seconds back from the leader.
Yes, but he is going to be here on pit road in 2 to 3 laps. They have been telling him to turn the fuel up. It sounds to me like they have met their mileage where they want to be. Now they're telling him he can use more fuel. Shortly, he'll be making a pit stop. And if both Montoya and Andretti make green pit stops, that could be the deciding factor today.
Michael Andretti due in. We don't know when Montoya is due in, but he went the furthest on his first stint of IndyCars. Now, including today, with apologies to the gang at Toyota because they are working hard at it. Here are the laps led and the wins. Toyota may be able to finally change that second column, and once again, it just shows you how really competitive the entire series has become.
I don't think there are any apologies necessary. They've been extremely dominant. This is Lee White, who heads up that TRD group.
The whole Toyota engine development group watches Montoya, their leader. And Michael has responded to an order to go ahead and run it hard because he just notched a couple of tenths, even though he is heading into the pit shortly.
What you're really hoping, if you're one of the cars out of sequence, that as the leader's pit, that a yellow comes out sometime afterwards so you can regain track position on these guys.
As predicted, Jan Bikas, here comes Michael.
Yes, and they've been talking about that the car has been pushing. So look at the front of the car to see if they go for some front wing. I would imagine they might go for a half turn. That's a half turn on the front wing as expected. Just need the fuel. 12 flat for Michael Andretti, and after some of the pit problems they've had this year, that was a great one.
Gilda Farron is in, now out. Tony Kanaan was in and out as well. They're now getting ready for Christian Fittipaldi. Montoya still is the leader. Of course, Carpentier came up to second with the stop by Michael. Tracy is third.
Well, just a quick word regarding tire wear. Max Pappas has been told by Bobby Rahal that his tire wear is a little bit greater than they had expected, but he thinks everybody's having the same problem. We say that because as we look down into turn number 1, the angle of the sun, we can see a lot of marbles on the outside line. If you get anywhere off the line, you're getting into the marbles. And Paul Tracy, in fact, has radioed his crew saying he thinks that he takes some buildup from the marbles on his tires that could be impacting his handling. Jan?
Cristiano D'Amata, Gary, has been in and out of pit road. He got 4 tires in fuel, and in 2 laps we expect to see Christian Fittipaldi here as well.
D'Amata in and out in 12.5 seconds. That's measured, of course. Wheel stop to wheel start in the pits. Franchitti for his service. Again, this on schedule.
And we've talked about tire wear, where we just overheard Adrian Fernandez talking with his crew. They've been getting excellent tire wear. They're considering not making a tire change on their last stop. Remember, they're out of sequence. They're going to go at least 28 laps farther than these drivers who came in under green.
As he leaves the pits, Dario Franchitti reaches up and pulls off one of the tearaways on his helmet to clear his vision. Montoya is still the leader, still out, 159 laps complete. Carpentier in second, 2.5 seconds back. Remember, Franchitti coming up to speed. And Christian Fittipaldi comes in. Jan?
And he is pitted just past the break where Michael Andretti was. We give you a view from behind. And of course, the key here is once the tires are done, you'll go off the air jacks and just wait for the fuel and make sure, oh boy, that's a scary moment. My goodness, that fuel valve got loose and was flapping around. Does not appear as though there's any injuries. Boy, for Newman Haas, they must wonder what happens sometimes with these pit stops. Thankfully, no one looks injured, and it didn't seem to slow him down too much.
The Action Center pits, Paul Tracy is in and out. So both of the Team Green cars have stopped. Max Pappas is also in. He was in fourth. Montoya remains out. I'm going to take you back and show you that.
Christian Fittipaldi's pit is directly across from our broadcast booth. I looked up and saw the fuel nozzle pop out. Unfortunately, one of the Newman Haas guys reached up and caught it in midair. They'll drop it off the jacks. You can see the fueler looking for the signal.
Oh, good catch. Montoya continues to stay out. Now the word from race control is that they may be giving Paul Tracy a black flag for a pit violation. So Paul Tracy will be answering the black flag. They just gave it to him from the starter stand. Jan Vikas, an update on Christian Fittipaldi. We'll get back to Jan in just a moment. Paul Tracy answers the black flag.
Oh! Sorry, Paul, I watched Mo Nunn enter the pits. He slid wide, knocked the, Gugelmin knocked that left front tire out of the way.
But pulls away without further incident.
No, it's a difficult sequence for the drivers. They come in, they've got to get down onto the pit speed limiter. It's a big change from 157 mile average where you're doing 195 on the straightaways down to 50 miles an hour. They're resetting the fuel counter as they come in. They're trying to hit the marks, get the bars. Sometimes the weight jack are realigned, taking a quick drink if they need to.
All right, here's a replay of Mauricio Gugelmin. He is up toward pit end, so he's going pretty fast until just the last second when he slows it down. Car on your right.
And I looked up just to see him lock it up, and you can see him ricochet off that left front tire there, bounces off the wall and back in front of the car.
Finally, Patrick Carpentier comes out of second place and into the pits. Oriol Servia got high coming off the corner. There's your leader, Montoya. Patrick Carpentier. Away routine stop for Carpentier. Jan Vikas.
Yes, Paul, sorry about that earlier, but I can tell you that for Christian Fittipaldi, it was a similar situation to what happened to Alex Tagliani. When he put it into gear, the car just jumped a little bit forward. When you have the revs up and you put it in gear, even though the clutch is in, it just rotated just a few inches. What that does is that gets the crew members off balance, and that's why they had difficulty with the pit equipment. Thankfully for Christian Fittipaldi, it didn't turn out to be a full-fledged fire like happened with Tagliani.
Watching Oriol Servia, take a look at that. That's what happened a couple laps ago. Excuse me, that's now. We were going to show you him going high in turn 2. You said that tape was coming. Look at that. Unbelievable. Twice now he's gotten up there. Montoya now heading on the pit road. Gary Gerald?
Exceptional fuel mileage. This is the best mileage, I would think, by far that this team has gotten this year. It has been a flawless ride thus far from Montoya. Watching Rob Hill, and again, no aero changes whatsoever. They totally rebuilt the front wing assembly before the start of this competition. After the warm-up, it has paid off handsomely. A 12.1 stop, and he's back on the track.
Servia, he's got all kinds of trouble out there. You saw the one situation live. We were just getting ready to show you this tape of 2 laps before that when he got up very close to the wall.
Well, that was a nice catch. He got off the racing line, and then Cristiano D'Amata came up, and the same thing happened all over again, as though he's got a tire going down or some other significant problem.
So Adrian Fernandez now picks up the lead of the race, followed by Jimmy Vasser. Montoya came out of the pits and into third. 172 laps are now complete. Back at the Milwaukee Mile, the Miller Lite 225. Adrian Fernandez now the leader. Again, we have two different strategies, and Jim McGee, the manager for Patrick Racing, decided to stop both of their cars on the 28th lap, and that process has managed to give them the lead at this point. Vasser is second. His teammate Juan Montoya is third. But on his last stop, which was intended to be a time stop, Parker, there was a hesitation.
There was. They only have 55 laps to go, so they don't need a full tank of fuel. Montoya comes in on the marks. You'll see Rob change this right front tire. Then watch when he looks up at the fueler. The fueler pulls, but it's the vent man that has a problem here, trying to get out. He's trying to pull him away. He can't get the lollipop for the air jack out of the way. 12.1 seconds isn't a bad stop, except they lost a couple of seconds on that, not having to take on a full load of fuel.
Well, if it's a time stop, you'd expect a full load to go in about 9 seconds this late in the race, so maybe they lost 3, as many as 4 seconds. Fernandez, easily the leader. 8 seconds back is Jimmy Vasser in second place. Elio Castroneves comes in. And again, this one routine. And we've shown you a couple of problems that Oriol Servia's had. He just went by at speed as Castroneves was pulling up to speed in the pits. Oh, somebody's white-walled. Whose tire is that?
That's Oriol Servia's, Paul, and that was part of his problem. He got forced high by Michael Andretti on the racetrack. You can see the white paint from the wall, and that is damaged. Now, the same is true with the rear tire, but if we come over here, take a look. This is what happens if you get offline and you get into the marbles. This is all the spare rubber that was left on the racetrack. That's why when you get in the marbles, you're in big-time trouble.
So a pretty nifty piece of driving, really, for Oriol Servia to keep it from a full-bore crash. Jimmy Vasser has made his stop. When he stopped, he was in second place, and that will bring Montoya up into second place behind this man, Adrian Fernandez. But Montoya is 12 seconds behind the leader.
We really haven't had a problem with the marbles all year long. Paul Tracy's complained about it a few times already on the radio. The surface temperature of these tires, when they come in and check them, is about 185 degrees, and if you get off where this very soft rubber has rolled off the tires up off the racing line, it adheres to the tires. All of a sudden, the car feels like it's gotten in gravel or light snow conditions, and at 180 miles an hour, you don't want to do that.
Tarso Marquez into the wall. The yellow comes out on the 183rd lap. He is over in turn 2. So what that will do, the fuel, for the most part, its strategy is completely played now, and Montoya will close up behind Fernandez as the rest of the field bunches up behind the pace car. The view from the pace car, Rhonda Trammell at the wheel. Adrian Fernandez is going to take advantage of this. He will come in and make his final fuel stop under the yellow.
Well, what we'll see is those cars that pitted originally on lap 28 under that first yellow will now have to come in. They can't make it to lap 225, which means the drivers that came in under green during the first round of normally scheduled stops will then reassume their position at the front. Shot looking back from the pace car, looking at Dario Franchitti.
Adrian Fernandez. The pits are still closed. The field not completely bunched up behind the pace car. They won't open the pits until everyone is neatly up behind the pace car. Tarso Marquez now out of the car, and there is no report of any injury. So as we look down on the Milwaukee Mile, Adrian Fernandez due to come in. He is the leader of the race. There is the top 15 in the race. Montoya will take over the lead. This was helpful in a way for both Fernandez and Montoya. While Fernandez will lose track position, he will make up the fuel that he would have lost under a green flag stop otherwise, and Montoya will move into the lead once again. So Gary Gerould, he is waiting and watching as the pace car works its way off of the 4th turn. And I'm sure a very anxious Adrian Fernandez trying to get down on the pit road.
And really, the only decision the teams will have to make is whether to put on a fresh set of tires or try to go for fuel only. But from the complaints we've heard about tire wear so far, I would assume that they will go for all 4 tires.
They do have tires laid out for Adrian Fernandez, Parker. There had been some speculation that possibly he wouldn't change tires, but all that is changed with the luxury of the yellow. So we watch the service being performed. Adrian won at Rio de Janeiro off the jacks, and his teammate Roberto Moreno, he ducked in right in front of him, and now we watch from the backside of Moreno's car. He's off the jacks, and Roberto is rolling in just under 10 seconds, about 9.3.
Kenny Breck also came in and made a stop with Team Rahal, and without incident, he is back into the action as well. 186 now complete. Back at the Milwaukee Mile, Juan Montoya has led 142 laps. We are still under yellow. Montoya leads Andretti, DeFerrin, Carpentier, Fernandez, and Kenny Breck. And when you think about the history here at the Milwaukee Mile, here are the guys that won the Indianapolis 500 and then came up to win the Milwaukee Mile in the same year. Is Juan Montoya really going to add his name to that list? Back at the Miller Lite 225, the Milwaukee Mile, the record for different winners to start a season is 6 at 91. Well, if Juan Montoya can win it, he will tie that record here today, but at the same time, he will score the first victory for the Toyota Racing engine. They've waited long, they worked hard. 1 lap to go until we're ready to go green once again. Kenny Breck had was actually the last car to make a pit stop. Gary Gerould?
Yeah, and just a quick note, he came in and just topped off with fuel, so there'd be no suspense about having enough to go the distance to lap 225. They did not change tires on that stop. He stayed on the set that they put on previously.
192 laps complete, 225 the scheduled distance. Montoya is working the car hard, trying to get those tires up to temperature. Parker, the entire fuel strategy is gone. There is 1 car separating first and second. Mauricio Gugelmin is down 1 lap. Michael Andretti is in second place just behind Gugelmin.
Everybody's up to full power now, Paul. It's just a sprint to the end.
Everybody answers the green flag. Michael Andretti looks for room. Carpentier moves as well. Andretti crossed the line 1.4 seconds behind Montoya. Then DeFerrin, then Carpentier. Adrian Fernandez looked like he had trouble. The tire's not fully up to temperature last time around. Fernandez back in 10th place. Watch this.
He's out of the groove up high. He's able to collect it, keep it off the fence, get it back up to speed, coming off the second corner.
And loses 5 places in doing so. Back at the front, Montoya and Andretti continue to battle. Fernandez, that was very costly for him. Michael Andretti still behind Mauricio Gugelmin. Now Gugelmin is off the rest of the pace. He is 1 lap behind in 12th place. Jan Vikas?
Yes, and they have called Michael on the radio and says you do not need to use the overtake button. In other words, they're already full rich. Doesn't do you any good to press the button on the steering wheel. They also told him, be sure you have your weight jacker where you want it to be, meaning that put the handling at the go fast setting and let's go for it.
Kenny Breck, Roberto Moreno. They battle for 5th place. Moreno led early, so did Kenny Breck. Moreno for 23 laps, Breck for 7.
Moreno's got a very quick car here. If he can run that close to Kenny Breck, he just has to come off the corner a little bit quicker, try to duck it, and then outbrake him at the end of this short straight.
That's Dario Franchitti closing in just behind him. And Franchitti is part of that battle. Max Pappas closing as well. So now it's a battle of 5th back through 10th. On board with Max Pappas. complete. Moreno still trying to get around Kenny Breck. Franchitti closes in. Fernandez now trying to catch up to Max Pappas just behind him. There's Fernandez working hard on Pappas. Moreno still working on Kenny Breck.
Moreno's got a quicker car. If he can be that close running in that sort of turbulence and hang with Kenny, his car's working better. He just has to figure out a way to utilize it. He might have to wait until they start to lap the slower traffic, trying to use the slower traffic to his advantage.
Fernandez did take a look to the inside going into 1. They're now coming off of 3 into 4. Montoya is pulling away at the front. Now 4.2 seconds ahead of Michael Andretti. Andretti is followed 3 seconds later by Gil de Ferran and then Patrick Carpentier. There is no battle at the front. The battle is right here.
With Max utilizing that early line down the inside, it's going to make it difficult for Adrian. You can see Max down the inside, Adrian a little higher. Adrian's going to have a hard time finding clean air. Looks like Adrian's car is running a little bit loose through 3 and 4.
We're going to show you speeds at the line. Absent a yellow flag, we are going to take you all the way to the checkered flag. That's Montoya's speed. Boy, he's picked it up from the 155s he was running earlier.
Yeah, there are only 2 cars right now in the 22-second bracket range, and that's Montoya and Carpentier.
Any question about who's quickest here? He's got a clear field in front of him right now. Fernandez still working on Pappas. Montoya picks up another 2 seconds with that 163-mile-an-hour lap. Montoya still the leader. Guzman is still separating Montoya and Michael Andretti, though it's not like Montoya is really up in position, or not like Michael is really up in position to do anything about Guzman. He is well back off of Guzman. Now we're going to look up track and show you. There comes Guzman. Now watch for Michael. He's coming off the corner now. That's the interval, first to second. And steadily Montoya pulls away. Here is third place, Gil de Ferran. And Patrick Carpentier is now in fourth.
Carpentier slowed down just a little bit. The other 2 cars to dip into the 22-second bracket. This car driven by Gil de Ferran, and also the car that's running second in position on the track, but down in 12th place, is Mauricio Guzman.
There's Carpentier as he crosses the line. Those 4 widely separated. Carpentier's run through this field from third. Fell as far as 12th, now is in 4th. But Montoya continues to just accelerate away. 209 laps complete. We're going to now take a look back for Kenny Breck and Roberto Moreno. They are the battle and the closest battle on the track for 5th place as they come off the corner. Franchitti's in there as well. I hesitate even to say it, but remember that Montoya, being propelled so quickly away from the rest of the field, has the Toyota engine. It has yet to win, and he has some real freaky problems with that engine, albeit just simply at Motegi, the pop-off valve control wire coming off during a pit stop.
Watch Kenny Breck as he comes off this corner. Kenny has consistently used more racetrack than anybody else all weekend long. He started 16th. He's currently in 5th. He had that problem stalling out of the pits 2 pit stops ago. Other than that, he probably would be one of the few cars that could give Montoya a real run. You can see him there coming off of turn 4, very, very close to the wall on the exit.
Into the first turn, that battle for 5th. It's a 3-way fight right now. Max Pappas has fallen back a little bit from Dario Franchitti. We get a glimpse of him from time to time into 3. Montoya 4.7 ahead of Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti a second ahead of third place Gil de Ferran. Now we're going to look up through the field and find Juan Montoya. There he comes. Then Guzman, then Andretti. Chip Ganassi 1 week ago won the Indianapolis 500 again with his driver Montoya.
And Paul, one thing that has thrown this team a curve today with a delay in the race by 24 hours, Juan Montoya was supposed to appear on Late Night with David Letterman tonight in New York City. Obviously, that's now gone on hold. They're trying to get rebooked for sometime next week.
Well, you know, if Letterman pulls out one of those high-dollar corporate jets, they might still be able to make it. 11 to go for Juan Montoya.
As we watch Montoya, Paul, remember how shocked we were when Ganassi announced at Fontana that he was switching not only from Honda engines, in which he had won the championship for so many years, but also from Renard chassis, who Ganassi first ran in 1994, had that initial win with Michael Andretti at Surfers Paradise, to Lola chassis. And everyone said, geez, what's Chip doing? Well, everything Chip touches seems to turn to gold. Could this be the day that he gets that first win for Toyota and another win for the Lola chassis?
Chip Ganassi is showing some unbelievable foresight. Look at this. Gil DeFerrin suddenly comes on the pit road. We had thought that there was no fuel issue with anyone, and suddenly here comes DeFerrin. They say it will be for a splash and go. 216 laps complete. That cost third place for DeFerrin. Took him out of the battle with Michael Andretti.
And Paul, it was literally a splash. It couldn't have been a much shorter stop for DeFerrin, but boy, could that be crushing, especially because he was in such a great position to advance in the championship point standings dramatically.
Montoya remains 3.5 seconds ahead of Andretti. With DeFerrin out of there, Carpentier goes to third. He is 6 seconds back from Andretti, so the top three are well spread out, but the battle with Kenny Brack and Roberto Moreno, it continues for fourth.
That's why we talked about fuel strategy so early. DeFerrin was one of the first to pit at lap 75. This driver, Juan Montoya, was able to go 9 additional laps. That's the difference between that splash and go and now being able to go to the checkered.
You know, there's kind of a tradition in race announcing where we get to about this point in the race and we talk about the driver hearing everything that's happening in the cockpit, and he amplifies sounds and worries about mechanically. But now with telemetry, can you imagine what all the engineers that are watching what this engine and this car is doing in the pits are doing? They got to be just glued to everything because they're on the verge of a historic first win for Toyota here.
I think Juan is just concentrating on driving as hard as Juan Montoya knows how. I think he's singularly focused. I think the guys that are stressed are exactly those that you mentioned, the data acquisition guys down in the pits. I think they're probably on pins and needles right now.
You know, Montoya does not seem to be bothered by much. He is extremely easy going. Now Michael Andretti on that last lap closed down. He's now 2.8 behind, so he picked up 2 full seconds. We're going to show you intervals at the line. Michael Andretti ran the last lap a full 2 miles an hour faster than Montoya. Almost 3. So now as the final lap's unreal, Michael Andretti is on his charge. The question is, will he run out of time? Doesn't look like he has that much of an opportunity to catch Montoya, especially since he has to get around Guzman to do so.
But with traffic ahead, Montoya's got to keep charging here. He can't hold back. He's got to push as hard as he can to catch and get around Jourdain, to use him as a buffer between he, Guzman, and Michael Andretti.
But Michael did close it down the last lap with 3 to go now. Boy, Andretti is just flying. 158.1 to 155.4 last time. Montoya will be looking for the white flag next time around. If he does so, he makes history a couple different ways. He's going to tie the record for different winners thus far in the season. 1 mile to go for Juan Montoya. The Indianapolis 500 champion may make it back-to-back wins here. Indy and then Milwaukee, and Toyota is about to see their very first victory. They have tried so hard and so long, and now they see a checkered flag. Congratulations not only to Montoya, but to TRD and Toyota. Chip Ganassi Racing, Toyota's first win in their 307th start. Moreno is not able to charge on Breck. That battle remains static. And Max Pappas comes through in 7th place. Jan Beekes?
Chip Ganassi getting the congratulations of Les Unger, all the Toyota people. What a great day for Toyota and for Chip Ganassi. Chip, Indianapolis turned right around and get this win for Toyota. How nervous were you those last few laps?
Well, you know, Michael was coming there. We had Gugelman between us, but Juan was just, you know, he was in top gear, not hitting the over limiter. Everything was fine. You couldn't ask for a better day. I mean, we suffered through this rain out, another rain out, and the Target team did a great job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
6 races in the CART FedEx Championship Series as the Colombian flag flies for Juan Montoya. In those 6 races, 6 different winners as Juan Montoya now adds his name to the list. We'll be right back. Well, the results, of course, are unofficial, but Montoya took a major leap forward in points finally this year. He got the pole, he led the most laps, and scored his 8th career win and his first CART win since Vancouver last September. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
And Juan Montoya is alongside. What does it mean to you to give Toyota its first victory as an engine supplier to this series?
A lot. You know, they worked so hard this year with us. You know, they came, you know, such a long way now. And we led so many laps, and it was just a shame we couldn't win. You know, we had Japan in our pocket, and things went wrong. And here, everything was good again, you know. I think we got something rolling, and I hope it just keeps coming.
How important was the momentum of your success at Indianapolis a week ago leading into this weekend?
It was important, but, you know, the car was good. You know, the only thing we were worried about, we didn't test here, so we thought we were like a step behind, and we changed everything for Saturday, and the car is just awesome all day long.
Now, this morning, I know you made a big change in the front wing after the warm-up session. How concerned were you before you made that change?
The car didn't feel very good, to be honest. I wasn't very happy with the car, and I said, you know, we need to figure out something new. We went back to what we knew to race on, and it was awesome. The car was just, didn't change it in the front wing or anything. It was really good.
And here comes the defending champion moving up in the point standings. Great job.
Thank you.
Oh, you can bet he is. This is Juan's 4th win on an oval. And here's a graphic to this point. Toyota engineers and everybody working on the engine hasn't liked all that much. But now they finally, after 307 tries, have put 1 notch in the win column. You're going to see a lot more than that. If we look at the points, now Paul Tracy, there's no change for him. Roberto Moreno dropped up 1 position. But look at Montoya. He suddenly jumped 6 positions up to 4th, to tie for 4th with Michael Andretti. Jan Beekes?
Well, yes, Mike was just working out those points here with his team. It turns out you're tied for 4th in the championship. He tried to run after Montoya, but too much speed for you?
Yeah, we were close. You know, when he got caught in traffic there in the end, we were about 5 seconds behind. We got it down to 1 in the end, so basically ran out of laps. But, you know, we drove hard. You know, the big Kmart Texas Havlin team did a great job in the pits for me. I mean, we made up I don't know how many spots the one time. I couldn't believe it. After everything shuffled out, next thing I was second. So I was like, wow, that guys did a great job. So, you know, we had a good day. You know, not perfect, but pretty good.
I know you did a lot of pit stop practice here at Milwaukee, and it paid off. Thanks.
Yep, thanks.
Paul?
You see in the background there, Chip Ganassi apparently on his cell phone behind Michael, waving at the camera. Don't forget, just under 2 weeks now, and we will be at the Tenneco Automotive Grand Prix of Detroit on Belle Isle. Of course, we'll have coverage of qualifying, CART today, and the race itself. The race will be on ESPN. Our final Toyota Spotlight of the day looks back on what turned out to be a historic day for Juan Montoya and for Toyota as Montoya becomes the 9th man to win the Indy 500 and then come up to Milwaukee and win here as well. Paul Page, for Parker Johnstone, Jan Beekes, and Gary Gerald, thanks for joining us. See us in 2 weeks. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com.